thank you all for listening and being here with us today. We have Nicole Miller here with us, and she is just, her voice, I was telling her before you guys got on how I was just so happy to hear her voice. I remember when I first met her, it was at a studio that I was teaching at the time, and she started coming to my classes, and her presence in the class was just so calming. And we had a lot in common. We were both from New Jersey, and we were in the deep Central South at the time. So I just felt completely bonded to her immediately when I met her. And so I wanted to have her on here today and have her share her story with us. So thank you, Nicole, for being here.
Well, thank you, Melissa, and thanks for inviting me to join in this project. That's very meaningful to me that you thought of me. What Melissa didn't mention is that I'm no longer in the Deep South. I'm actually in the Pacific Northwest now. I live just outside of Seattle in Issaquah, Washington. So this morning it's 46 degrees outside, and while the rest of you are roasting, I'm wearing a fleece. So that's been a little bit of a big change, but one that I've welcomed. So a little bit about me. Like I said, my name is Nicole Miller. I'm 48 years old. I found yoga when I was about 37, and I went to yoga because I kept getting injured. My running was my go-to form of exercise forever and ever. It was easy, it was fast, but I kept injuring myself, especially after having children. And I was always very curious about yoga, but I was also kind of a workout snob, and I thought, that yoga just doesn't look very challenging. And I'm of the personality that likes to be challenged. And so I kind of kept it at an arm's distance for a while. And then one day when I was at a running event for my son, I noticed all these ladies wearing pink "Say Yes to Yoga" t-shirts. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because they all looked very athletic and fit, and they were full of energy, and I thought, I kind of like that vibe that they're giving off. I want to find out more about that. So I researched, found out the instructor, called her, talked to her, and I went to a class. And that's pretty much where it all started for me. She rented out like a space in a dance studio, and we met there once a week. It was just something she was kind of doing as a hobby. And trying to figure out where she was going to be as an instructor. And so we were kind of her pet project, I guess. And it went well for her because she was very successful afterwards. I decided to become a yoga instructor actually while we were living overseas in Doha, Qatar. And I had been practicing on my own for a long while at that point, just via online videos primarily. Yoga Glow was my online resource that I went to, and I found a lot of teachers through that website that I really enjoyed, in particular one named Jason Crandall, and he's a pretty well-known yogi based out of San Francisco, and I really connected to his way of instruction. Like when he spoke about how this posture that he was putting us in, what it was meant to do, or how it should feel in our body, and how if we felt this or that maybe we needed to back off a little bit. And just like his well-roundedness, his knowledge about everything was really inspiring to me. And I thought, if I'm ever going to teach, I would love to teach in like a similar voice. And I think that was one of the things that I always wondered when I came to the instruction of being a yoga teacher, was how do you find that voice? Like, what is my voice? So that was a journey that I kind of went on that year of training in Little Rock. So I went through training at Blue Yoga Nyla with Stacy. And that was a great year, a year of real discovery for me and experimentation. And I did find my voice. And as you know, Melissa, it's a process that never ends, right? I mean, you're a yogi for life. You're a teacher in training for life. I'm not currently teaching. When I moved here to this area, I dove back into my own practice, which I felt maybe I had neglected a little bit. And I found a great studio here, and would discover later on through talking to the owners that he's actually a student of Jason Crandall, which I thought was amazing and such a coincidence. And I think he was kind of shocked that I knew who he was, who Jason, because he referred to him as Jason. Everybody's chill out here on the West Coast. It's, everything's first names and super casual, which I'm still getting used to. But anyway, so that's kind of my backstory. I'm not teaching currently right now. I did teach in the Little Rock area for a little bit over a year. I taught Hatha and Vinyasa classes, as well as at a Montessori preschool. And I also assisted in lots of chair yoga classes that were primarily geared towards elderly, but, had a wide range of participants. So I have a fairly diverse background, I think. And I do look forward to teaching again someday, but all of our studios up here are still closed down because of the pandemic. So I'll go to my first yoga class in a long time with other people this weekend at one of the instructors' houses. He has a big outdoor area that we're all gonna appropriately space and practice in. So I'm excited for that. But so let me transition now and talk to how I think yoga has provided hope to me. And I think I'd like to do that in two ways. One, maybe express like personally how yoga has helped me find hope. And then in a broader context, for a second example, just something not as personal, something more universal. So I would say that for a lot of yoga instructors and for a lot of yogis, period, it comes down to the breath, right? Yoga teaches you how to breathe. And that sounds corny to a lot of people, and it probably did to me when I was first starting to get into yoga, but it was truly one of the things that I walked away with feeling like I now possess control over my breath. And I remember I was doing some research for one of the first classes that I taught to our group of teachers in training. And I came across this phrase that I wanted to be the mantra for the class. And it's really something that's turned into more of like a mantra for life, which is, if I control my breath, no one can take away my peace. And I remember saying that first time in the class, and Stacy, who was the instructor for all of us for teacher and training, looked at me and just kind of nodded. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. I made a connection. But I think that knowing that you can go through hard times, you can go through struggles, and that you have the permission to breathe through those, to not hold your breath, to not be afraid and scared, although certainly those are all emotions that we're going to feel. We know that they can pass, and they can pass more quickly, less fearfully, if we can breathe, if we can sigh it out, if you can exhale out the bad so that you can then breathe in the good. So I would say, to me, that's one of the things that I feel is really powerful as a teacher to give to students, is that hope through the breath. You give them the permission, and that's a really powerful thing as a teacher, to say, I'm giving you permission, not just in this class, but for every day, to take those breaths that you need. And you should do that, and you should feel confident doing that, secure in doing that. So I would say, for me personally, it's that permission that we give as teachers and we receive from others, that it's okay to breathe through the hard times. So I'd say that's my first example of hope through yoga. And my second one involves teachers. So we had several teachers in our teacher training that year. And then I actually worked at the Montessori school and saw teachers embracing yoga there. And so I think right now, in this time that we're going through with the pandemic, with the social justice issues that are on the forefront for everybody, people are in financial struggles because of closures, whatnot. This is a really difficult time in our history. And I think that one of the things that you realize that you need are coping mechanisms. And sometimes people don't learn these coping mechanisms as they're growing up or as young adults. And they kind of come to it later in life when maybe they've had come to like a crisis, and they seek out help, and they're told about meditation, or they're told about yoga, encouraged to go and seek these things out, so that they can feel better. Um, and so they learn them, but they learn them kind of later in life. And I'll say one of the things that kind of gives me hope for the future is that I see teachers teaching their young kids, their kindergartners, their first graders, their preschoolers, and in my case, these coping mechanisms earlier in life. And if you can learn them when you're young and you can take them through the rest of your life, then maybe those struggles just won't be as hard. And so I see a lot of hope in that teachers of all varieties, like band instructors at summer band camp or high school AP psychology teachers, they're embracing all of these different attributes of yoga and meditation to teach their kids that they can get through all these things, that they have within them the strength to do that. And so I think the more that we can expose people at a young age to these type of skills, for some people they're skills, for some people they're mechanisms to get through life. The earlier we can teach those and have that foundation for them, the brighter the future is.
Nicole, I love what you said about teaching the kids the breath work and the meditation and the yoga, because the kids are craving something like that. And I even have been asked to come into schools by after school directors and teachers, like you said, all different sorts of teachers, to teach their students these tools. And I know of teachers that have used them after I've left to start each class. And it is going to just change the world when we can start with this knowledge way younger. Thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing how you've been renewed through yoga and breath work. I loved how you talked about the breath work. I think that's going to be a real treat for our listeners today.
That's great.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have you on again.
I'd love that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.